Marzia's got a whole plethora of different devices here, mostly tablets. That's what there seems to be a lot of interest in, the Kindle and the different tablets. You know, if you have other things that you're interested in, phones, GPS, whatever, you know, just ask away, and we might know things, we might not, but we can find information for you if we don't know.
I just read a book. Yeah, I just read a book on Android tablets, so
it's fresh in your mind.
It is fresh in my mind.
So do you want to go over what's in your handout first? Or?
Yeah, I just had a handout that's just a basic overview comparison. You know, there are other tablets out there, as she demonstrated with the HP touchpad, but the dominant players right now tend to be the iPad, which is the dominant player. The Android tablets, there's kind of a variety out there, from the full-size 10-inch Android tablets to the smaller ones. And then the sort of pseudo-Android tablets like the Kindle Fire and the Barnes & Noble Nook, that although they technically run Android, you wouldn't recognize it as such. So I just covered the basics there. Academically speaking, if you're looking for an app to do productive school, or you know, for a tablet to do productive schoolwork, you know, if you want something that's probably more future looking, get the iPad. But you know, there's a lot of really great sales on the Android devices, and they are starting to evolve some. So you know, they may actually start to gain market share in the next year or so. You know, when the Android phones first came out, nobody used them and kind of laughed at the idea of having one when you could have an iPhone, and now they're actually serious contenders.
And what we don't have here is just a Kindle, a regular old Kindle. They have the new touch ones that just came out, look very nice. If you just want Wi-Fi, and you know, we usually get the Wi-Fi. The 3G is nice, but you know, as long as you're somewhere with Wi-Fi, you can download books and you know, and take it wherever you go. You don't have to be connected like you do on your phone. So the Wi-Fi is fine. The Kindle Touch is $79 now, so it's very affordable.
No, it's $99 for the touch. It's $99 for the touch and $79 for the things at the bottom that you push to make the pages go.
It's got the e-ink, so it's nice to read. It's more like reading paper. You don't get glare out in the sun. It's not backlit like a computer screen, so if you get eye strain from a computer, you might want to look at a Kindle, or if you read outside. But it's just for reading, pretty much. It does a few other things, but if you want to do a whole bunch of stuff, get a tablet. You know, if you just want to read books, the Kindle's a very good choice, or the Nook, or do they still have the Kobo?
Yes. Kobo, yeah. It's just to clarify that she was saying that, yeah, the Kindle isn't the only e-reader out there. There's a lot of different ones. The Kindle is the most popular one, but you can actually read Kindle books on just about any of them, provided that you get the right software on your desktop to convert those books over.
Yeah, the other major competitors for the Kindle would be the Barnes & Noble Nook.
Yeah, the Nook and the Kobo.
Yep, Kobo, which was originally Borders. That company has spun off that aspect, so they rescued the technology. And then, of course, there's the iBooks on the iOS devices as well, and that works both on the iPads and the smaller devices such as the iPhones and iPod Touches as well. So that's the nice aspect about it, is that you're going to have a similar experience. Now, I do recommend, though, if you're going to use iBook on an iOS device, you would use it on one of the newer units with the Retina displays, because on the older units, the lower resolution displays are a little more difficult to read. With the new Retina displays that they've been using for the last 2 years, it's much, much easier. In fact, a lot of people who would possibly be considering looking at such an item such as the iPad itself can now do almost everything they want on the iPhone. So it just depends on which is more comfortable for your eyes, and also the form factor. Typing, though, this is going to be a lot easier to type on the screen. And best of all, yes, the wireless keyboards. And the best thing is all these Bluetooth keyboards you're seeing out there, it'll work with this, it'll work with this, it'll work with those.
And they have cases where the keyboard is built in so that you don't have to carry it separately. I mean, there's all sorts of things. I've never done that because if I was going to get a keyboard and all that, then I would probably have a netbook, or a laptop. For me, the tablet's portable. I don't want to carry other stuff too, or like I said, I'd have a netbook or something with the keyboard built in. The nice thing about the iPad or some of the Android tablets is that the apps for as far as reading goes, you can get the apps. You can get the Kindle app, the Nook app, the Kobo app, iBooks. All of those on my iPad. So no matter what format book I want to read, I can buy it. I can read it on my iPad. It doesn't matter where it's from. That being said, I buy all Kindle books just because I'm an Amazon shopper to begin with. My daughter has a Kindle, and we've synced them to the same account, and so any books that we have, we can read on either device. I've also got the app on my computer here, on a netbook at home. I mean, so anywhere I am that I can access the internet, I can read my book. I can read it on my phone. I've got a little Android phone. So, and it'll track your furthest location the first time you read. The next time if you reread a book, it'll always go to the end, and there's workarounds, but
yeah.
But that's nice because then we can share books, because my daughter and I read a lot of the same books, and so we buy it once on Amazon, and then we can both read it, on our Kindles whenever we want, or our iPad.
Yeah, and on that handout, one of the things I talked about is if you're looking at a smaller tablet, so this actually has the same screen resolution as something like this. It's just a smaller screen, and it's got a fast processor and everything built into it. One of the things I like about the keyboard here, I actually like the keyboard on this better than I like the on-screen keyboard on this, because it's got swipe. And what swipe does is rather than tapping the letters out individually, which you could do, you actually just swipe your fingers along the keyboard. I don't know if you can see that very well. Yeah, you just kind of swipe and pause at the things, and it's good at guessing what you were saying. It's pretty good at guessing it, and so if you're just taking notes, like you're in a meeting taking notes about things, it's actually pretty fast to sit there and swipe it out, and instead of trying to fiddle with tapping on a keyboard there. I'm a touch typist, so the on-screen keyboards drive me a little bit batty.
And I can't do the swipe thing. They try to show me that on my phone. You can just swipe, and all I could type was gobbledygook. I couldn't make words happen ever. So I have the old-fashioned slide-out keyboard that I love because I like to have the keys that I can touch. My thumbs apparently don't have any electrical connection in them or something, because I can't, most of the time my thumbs won't activate my phone anyway. So, I find this keyboard to be a lot faster. I can type on an iPad though. The iPad, it took a little bit, but the keyboard's big enough that I have found that I'm fairly good, and it does the autocorrect thing. But just like a phone, you'll end up sending people weird messages when it autocorrects a word to something completely different. So you can always tell if somebody's typing on an iPad or a phone and they're not going back and reading what it's doing.
And one of the newer innovations that was just released in October came out for this little guy, the iPhone 4S. Because instead of having to type on this little screen right here, you can now use a Bluetooth headset or the built-in mouthpiece on this one, and you can now talk to it. And it will do regular dictation. So what it's going to do is it's going to send it via the phone to the internet, to Apple servers for processing, and then it's going to send its best guess back to you. And as long as you enunciate clearly and you speak at a normal pace, it will give you a good translation. This is Apple's implementation, and then Google's also done their version as well using Google Voice.
Text Harold. I've been able to do this since 2009. And in all fairness, Siri is actually pretty cool because it uses natural language, but you can do that with Android phones as well. It just doesn't give you like the oh, it looks like you need an umbrella today kind of banter that Siri does.
But the good news is that both systems are starting to liberate us from the small keyboards that we have on the devices, or even the touch devices right here, and allowing us to focus on what we're doing. So you can be sitting there driving, and you hear a text message come in. You would just tap the button on your headset and say, "Read me the text message," and then it will ask you, "Do you wish to reply?" And you can say yes. and then you give the message back, and then it automatically sends that text message off. Or I can go into the word processor on this little guy right here, which is the same word processor on the large tablet. And I can dictate everything in that I would normally want to type, and I can do so at a rate far greater than that which I would normally be able to input the data into either of these. There's only one catch, though. I will not have the privacy of a keyboard.
Yeah, that's...
So everyone's going to hear what I'm talking about. So there's going to be strengths and weaknesses to each system. That's the reason why all of these are going to be complementary and not going to replace one another.
And I'll also add that if you need any accessibility features, go with the Apple products. They do it better. There's some accessibility in these, but it's not really well implemented.
The best thing, though, is it truly is a technology arms race between the Apple products and the Android products. Each company and group of companies, because the Android, it's an ecosystem of a whole variety of companies, each one putting their own spin, unique flavor, and taste to the devices. Apple keeps a cohesive, unified approach to all their systems. So they have a guidebook everyone has to work with to maintain a similar flow of all the aspects of it. So it depends on which way you want to go. But the nice thing is that Apple does something, Androids are going to do it, they're going to one-up them. Then Apple's going to try and one-up what Android's done. So it's going to be going back and forth. So the best thing is we've got two strong camps, and they're going to be giving good competition for all this for a long time.
And to address the earlier point on the fire that I was, before we officially started here, the Fire works okay. I've got it.
That's the Kindle Fire.
Yeah, this is the Kindle Fire.
It's a new one. It's color. It's an e-reader, but it also, you can consume movies, TV shows, websites, email, that kind of thing.
I haven't been able to get it to successfully log into the network here, and I'm not sure if that's me or if there's some aspect of the device that it's just not wanting to show me the login screen. It wants to pop it up in a separate window, and it just won't get on. But I if you're using that as a thing there, it technically runs Android, but you can't tell looking at it because it does. What they did is they took the free portion of Android, did not license anything from Google, and took out anything that would lead to a Google product. There are no Google products on here at all, and rearranged a lot of it to make it essentially an Amazon shopping device. There's a carousel up here which goes to your most recently opened things in order, whether they be apps or movies or books. You can then go through individually and look through your books and your movies and whatnot. If you're connected to the internet, you can look at the things that you have stored in the cloud on Amazon servers. It works okay for what it does. My biggest beef with it, though, is that if you look at it, there's all these pictures of kids reading books. Their parental controls are horrible. I found a way to lock out app purchases. You can turn off one-click purchasing, theoretically, although it seems to keep popping back on. And so I tested it. I turned off the only place where it had any settings that let me change parental controls, which was in the App Store. Then sure enough, I couldn't purchase apps that way, automatically. But as soon as I went over to rent a movie, it let me rent the movie right there. So if you have kids in the range where they would have the know-how to purchase things, but not the self-control to not do it, this is probably not the device for you. I'm very I have a 10-year-old, so almost 10-year-old, and I'm very disappointed by this. You can lock out the screen, so that you can have to type a passcode to get in, and I did that much. But once you've typed the passcode, you're in, and you can just purchase whatever you want. If you don't have kids, and if you're getting it for yourself, then hey, have at it. That's not an issue for you. It was something that I found very disappointing. Oh, and if you get an iPad, by the way, back to the iPad. Those have excellent parental controls and are the example that all the other apps should be following. You can individually turn off each item. If you don't want your kids to have internet access, you turn off the browser. You don't want them to have an email account, you turn that part off. You don't want them to make purchases, you turn it off. You don't want them to make in-app purchases, turn that part off.
And the one other thing about the Kindle Fire is that it's only Wi-Fi. There is no 3G.
Yes, only Wi-Fi.
Apple has Wi-Fi or 3G, but if you get 3G, then you have to buy a monthly access through, is it
Well, you can
Verizon?
buy one-offs.
There is a few options you have when it comes to the Apple products, when it comes to data packages on an iPad, for instance. The first option is the prepaid route. There is currently 2 providers that are offering prepaid, which is AT&T and Verizon. Each has a different package. AT&T has 2 options. Verizon has 4 different data options. And then after that, if you don't want to be on a prepaid system, we would rather do a postpaid, they do have their normal data plans as well that you can do a postpaid. And the best part of all is that there's no contracts on any of them. A contract, if you were to sign one, would be completely voluntary if you were getting some nice spiff or bonus. But otherwise, it can all be done just with this device. So say, for instance, I have an iPad with 3G in it, and I don't have the data on. And then I go on a vacation. Okay, now I want to have it, so I go ahead and prepay $25, and now I've got 2 gigs of internet for 30 days, or 2 gigs, whichever comes first. And when it's done, it runs out, it turns off, and then it's just going to wait there for me to renew it. So the best part is that there's no strings on that one. They make it really easy to work with.
Compare and contrast that with the Zoom, which unless things have changed drastically, and they may have, you could not do that. This is a Zoom 4G, which has 4G access, but if I want to turn that on, I've got to sign a 2-year contract with Verizon. Now, they may have changed that to allow a monthly a la carte option, but when I went in and checked with them, they did not offer it.
Typically, they'll allow you to get out of the 2-year contracts if you buy the device outright. Although in some cases, for instance, this little iPhone here, it would normally run me $199 or more in the various stores. They're going to have it for AT&T, Sprint, and Verizon. That's about right now. And that's for those subsidized prices. Now, if I did not want to subsidize the price of the unit and I wanted to buy it outright, they start at $650. But it's also unlocked, so it's not bound to a particular network. So it does have some handy uses as well. So if I were to buy an unlocked iPhone, that means I can use it here in North America. And if I travel in Europe, I can buy a prepaid SIM, slip it in there, and now it's running on the European networks. And then when I come back to North America, I can slip back in my chip and it goes back. So it allows for some roaming. So there are some advantages to buying an unlocked device, but it is very expensive. So that's one of the trade-offs right there.
Yeah, I actually did that this summer. I bought, my phone is a Nexus 1. It's an Android phone, but it's unlocked. The caveat with unlocked devices, the iPhones are already quad band, so they're already taken care of on that if you get the new one.
Mm-hmm.
The old Verizon one, the iPhone 4, I don't think is quad band.
It was CDMA only.
Right, that's what I thought. But what you have to have, if you're looking for a phone that you can take to Europe, is that it has to be a quad-band GSM phone. The iPhone is both GSM and CDMA. I know that's a lot of acronyms. There's 2 different phone networks types that essentially do the same thing. In Europe, uses GSM. In the U.S., T-Mobile and AT&T use GSM, and nobody else does. On top of that, there's different bandwidths that they can take. And that's why you have to have what's called a quad band phone. And if you do that, which is a lot of prep for if you're just going to Europe, you can actually rent phones if you're doing this. But if you do that and you have a quad band phone, then you can just hop on over and say, yeah, I'd like a prepaid SIM card, and you'll be mad at how cheap they are. Darn U.S. system. And then just pop it in and use your phone while you're in Europe and have a European phone number, and then come back and pop in your SIM card for your U.S. phone company.
So you were talking about the iPad plans. What's the other option if you don't do the prepaid?
The postpaid plans would be the standard data plans throughout the providers. So you would contact the provider of choice, right now being AT&T and Verizon. Sprint is rumored to be working with Apple to get an iPad before the iPad 3 release date. We don't have any information on that, but I would say it's safe to speculate that when there is a third generation iPad, that Sprint will be factored into that discussion, and they'll be able to sell an iPad as well. But it would just be your ordinary data plans, so anywhere from $30 to $60 a month, depending on what type of service you want. And those are reoccurring billing. Plus, it's what we call postpaid, so you're paying for 1 month's worth of service. So, say for instance, I do $25 as an example through AT&T. That would get me 2 gigs. And then I go over my 2 gigs, but I stay under an additional gig. So they charge you $10 for any 1 gig over. So if I do 3 gigs, it's still cheaper that route than it would be to buy 2 $25 prepaids. So there's times when it makes sense, other times when it doesn't make sense, because in theory, you could end up with a whopper of a phone bill. The good news is that all the providers have safety switches in their accounts now, so you can say hard cutoff after so much data, or don't allow me to go into overages, or have the operator call me. And so they're putting in more safeguards in there. So if you do give this to a family member, especially a younger member, you can avoid getting into trouble. So the carriers are very aware of preventing the infamous $5,000 phone bills.
Or you can just get a Wi-Fi one, and
Yeah, get a Wi-Fi one.
then you're limited to wherever there's a Wi-Fi hotspot. But I use mine a lot for just reading. So I have a whole bunch of books already downloaded, my Kindle books. Anything that's not on there, if I were on a trip and I don't want to read any of the books that's already in here, stop at a Starbucks or a McDonald's and log on to the Wi-Fi, download your stuff, and and you're on your way. So it's a less costly solution.
Yeah. To add the to add the 3G to an iPad, you would have to purchase the 3G with the unit. It would be $130 more than the Wi-Fi. So you really want to have the cellular. So if you do a lot of traveling, then it makes sense. Or if you know you're going to want data wherever you go, then it would make sense. Otherwise, the Wi-Fi models will save you quite a bit of money.
Or another option is when you buy a smartphone, you can get a smartphone that allows you to tether your signal from your phone to any of your portable devices. Some companies charge for the service, depending. You'd have to ask them, what they charge for allowing you to tether and which phones allow it. But yeah, I have a phone that tethers, and if I am somewhere without Wi-Fi and really need a book or whatever, then I can download it that way.
Can you get a call if your phone is tethered to your?
Yeah, but then it hangs up, or it hangs up the data.
Okay.
Yeah.
Depending on the network, if you're on a GSM system, it would allow you to stay on your voice line. If you're on a CDMA, then it would cut you off. Now the good news is LTE, which is coming next year for pretty much just about everyone, that ends the dilemma, because it will maintain voice and data, and it will be extremely high-speed data.
That's 4G.
Yep.
So that's a whole new crop of phones then?
Yep.
Yes.
Excellent.
So when your contract's
Don't buy a
up,
phone
yeah.
yet.
Well, when your contract's up, I would seriously hold out for 4G.
Is that the same LTE? That's the same as 4G?
4G has
4G
been...
is kind of a broad, general
Yeah.
term for many different technologies, but because if you say 4G and you're talking about T-Mobile, then you mean HDSPA plus. If you're talking about Sprint, then often you mean WiMAX. But LTE is probably the direction in which things are going eventually.
Yep.
But every phone
AT&T is
company has
deploying.
a 4G technology.
Verizon is deploying LTE. Sprint is working with Clearwire to add LTE to their system as well. So they're going to have that component. T-Mobile is also in the process of deploying. The catch, though, is that once again, it'll need to be a quad-band LTE phone, because each provider in the United States works on a different bandwidth than the other providers.
I bet you they're going to eliminate my little slidey out keyboard because it's all old, outdated. I love my keyboard.
Yeah, they'll have keyboard models. Some people like them. I hear, that sort of thing.
I love my little keyboard.
Do any of you have questions about our gadgets?
Yeah, we've just been rambling here.
Well, I have just even, because I don't own one of these iPads, is this, other than, I can see the advantage for downloading books, because that's what I've thought about, maybe getting something for downloading books, but is this like ultimately going to replace laptops, or do you still, or how do you use this in concert with your?
Honestly, I think it probably, right now, I think if you get one of these, if you have a netbook, you will throw it out and you won't ever use it. If you have a laptop, you probably won't. As in a little teeny tiny,
A mini laptop.
yeah, a mini laptop that you take for portability and.
No, a regular
But-
laptop. I mean, my computer at home is a regular laptop, and I'm getting ready to buy another one.
I
Right.
feel like that these right now are more for consuming content than for creating content. So I still need my laptop, even my netbook, I think. I mean, I'm not sure I want to write a paper on whatever little Word app is on here with my little flat keyboard, or even one of those. You know, I'd rather use a full laptop or a netbook that has a full keyboard. But that's, you know, that's just me. The apps are getting better all the time, that there are more apps that you can actually create content. But I don't think that this is going to replace, it's not going to replace a desktop or a full laptop right now. My kids going to school, I know Sean mentioned to this, that, you know, when your kids go to college, one solution could be that they have a desktop in their room and a tablet. And they could take notes on their tablet, they could have access to the internet, their email, that kind of stuff. My son went with a netbook and a desktop 2 years ago because the tablets weren't out yet, and they're expensive. But I don't think you could just survive on a tablet unless you don't create much content.
Because like for my classes, I put all my, like the formal presentation in, I do PowerPoint, because my handwriting's so bad and it just takes up, you know, too much time to write on the whiteboard. So I have, and you know, so you're trying to make a nice PowerPoint slide and pull as a graphic, I feel like I need my computer and to do that.
Yeah, and you
actually.
can show the PowerPoint from your iPad,
Right.
but to create it,
You can create
easier.
it in Keynote.
The good news is that we just heard from yesterday. Microsoft announced that they are bringing the real Microsoft Office to the tablets.
nice.
So it's going to be on the
That'll help.
iOS for the iPads and the Windows tablets that they're currently developing. I have not heard their current status of their production on Android. I would definitely not rule it out. I would say it's probably, once they finish up with the iOS version, they'll probably jump to Android, because they want to make for certain that they cut Google off at the pass, because Google is pushing their Docs programs on the Android systems pretty heavily, and Microsoft realizes that if they don't get Microsoft Office on these things in a hurry, as in really yesterday, they're going to be losing market share and mind share to everyone.
There's still little bits of headaches, like, you know, if I want to process an image to put into Photoshop, or to put into a presentation, a PowerPoint presentation, you know, there are image editing now that you can do, I believe, on tablets.
Adobe
you know,
has
Photoshop kind of
brought
stuff.
Photoshop Express, but it's not a full version yet.
Exactly, it's not a full version. Printing, you can print from these, and it's getting easier all the time. My ancient printer at home finally died, and we got a new one, and I haven't tried it yet, but it's got a special
AirPrint.
AirPrint, that's what it's called, that you can print from your tablet or your phone, because that's how it has always been a problem, you know, for us at home, is that you have something on a Wi-Fi device that doesn't plug into your network, and now I want to print. How do I get it somewhere where I can print it? But the problems are slowly going away, but you would have to change your workflow. You'd have to, you know, realize that you're going to have to do things in different ways. But I think eventually it probably will replace, to an extent, you know,
I appreciate your comment that it's more like for
consuming, right?
for others to create stuff.
And even more so with like the Kindle Fire, that's
Oh, yeah, the
entertainment.
Kindle Fires, yeah.
That's, you know, that's surfing the web, that's email, that's watching movies, reading books, that kind of thing.
I wouldn't even go
iPad
so far as
has a little bit
email on that.
more, really?
I would
Okay.
say
It's
to
got an
answer your
email
question
app,
on
but
how
yeah.
much your machine one of these can do, I would say it's probably going to be close to 80% of what you would typically do on a laptop, you can do on one of these to one degree or another. But that last 20%, it would be a kludge at best on a tablet, and it's best to go ahead and do some of that final tweaking on a regular machine. So when we show students these devices in the bookstore, we're going to show them that for the price of a normal high-performance laptop that they were looking at, I can get them an iPad with 3G capabilities and a 21-inch desktop computer, and it'll do the entire package for the same price. And so that way they're able to create some stuff on their computer, and through the new cloud services out there, it'll automatically end up on their tablet. And they can look on their tablet, and they can make a few field edits based on what their instructors told them in class, and the moment they're done making their edits, it's already appeared on their home computer as well. So it's a new way of thinking. So a lot of the things that we can't do, that last 20%, that will be coming without a doubt, because there will be one day when these will be your core computer, because you'll take this and you'll slip it into the side, or you'll dock it, or you have a little plug where you're going to set it down into it, and then your monitor's going to turn on, your keyboard's going to activate it, because this will be everything. Your storage, your network, everything will be in that one spot.
Well, and like I said, and I do touch typing, and I'm very fast, so it's like I would want.
You would want a
something
Bluetooth
like
keyboard.
That would
frustrate the living daylights
Yeah.
out of me.
No, yeah.
The on-screen keyboard is
I hear you.
great for quick edits, and I'll show you what it looks like here. Because we're going to have two different sizes. We have this size right here,
There you go.
and then we have that size right there. And you can rotate and control which one you want. But yes, it is not going to give you tactile feedback.
I can't use that one. I can use that one.
Okay.
I always rotate it, and then I'm fairly good at. And it took a little adjustment. You know, it wasn't immediate. You know, and you're hitting the wrong keys, and you're, you know, and the whole.
I've never been able to
I
do
found it
that,
irritating to highlight something and try and change it. It doesn't always highlight what I want. Now this is an app. This is an iPad 1. It's the original. So I think the 2 has improved on some of that, and the 3, you know, will probably be even better. The other thing that the tablets do with the apps is they're good for reference. You know, there's all sorts of apps that you can get depending on, you know, for students, what you're studying, you know, a periodic table, you know, things like that, or location sensitive things, maps, you know, all sorts of things for entertainment on here. You can look and see, you know, where's the closest fast food burger joint to where I am, and it'll take your location, and then you can see reviews, you can, you know, so things like that are portable and are location sensitive are really nice, whether it's on a tablet or a phone.
So to go back to your earlier point about the PowerPoints, you can actually make keynote presentations which are PowerPoint compatible, and you can create them and edit them on a tablet. My daughter had a presentation she was doing for school that I had her do on the iPad, and it worked great. It did exactly what she needed to do. The shortcoming really is the keyboard for typing intensive stuff, and you can edit. You know, it's not Word. It's not a full version of Word yet, but you can edit Word documents on all of these platforms using solutions that will get most of the time.
And then you touch where you would want, and that pulls the keyboard. So it's great for quick edits. So if you had to make a field edit, that's what this is going to be great for.
Okay.
And then you would create the rest of it on your production computer.
You can do the same thing if you're making quick movies. You can edit movies. You know, you can do quick photo edits, et cetera, et cetera. You know, and it's not, you know, I wouldn't get one of these as just my computer, but
if I was thinking about maybe getting one to do the books, you know, and then have a little, maybe be able to act as internet, what product would you think is the best?
What do you want to do on it?
yeah.
Just
Like if I was maybe going to primarily do, I just don't, I'm usually near a computer during the day and
Right.
night where I can check
Exactly.
my emails. So it's like, what do I, and I'm not traveling that much, and when I do go to Europe, I take my laptop, but it's like, I don't know what I would need that for, except that the idea of the books, that I could get books that maybe I have.
if you
Dedicated
just
e-reader or
wanted to get
smartphone?
books, I would get an e-reader, so a Kobo or a Kindle or a Nook,
Okay.
and have the
And then
e-ink.
smartphone
My
for like your email and whatnot.
Huh?
You get a smartphone for your email and such, and then use the dedicated e-readers.
Unfortunately, it's almost as expensive as the Kindle now. Some of the Kindles, the cover, it looks kind of like this one, but it has a little power thing that you plug into it, and it has a light that's built in, and which I got for my daughter, because a lot of times you're reading in the dark. These are backlit. You can read in the dark. It doesn't matter where you are. Kindle is not. It's like reading a book. You can't read a book in the dark. You need a book light.
Yeah.
Well, I got her a special case that has a book light built in that's powered from the Kindle, so you don't have a book light burning out every 2 hours. You know, those of us who are readers that will sit down and read for 4 or 5 hours at a time, you go through like 3 book lights. So it does deplete your battery on your Kindle faster, but she still only has to charge it every few weeks. I mean, it's not even like, you know, daily or anything. So unfortunately, those cases are like $60. So it's almost as much as the Kindle, but it is worth it. She has used it a lot, and you know, she's a big reader. And it's nice to have that light built in so you can read wherever you are, and it actually does illuminate the screen. I borrowed it from her to try it, and actually the iPad, and you can change the contrast, but sometimes the darker it gets, the brighter your iPad, and you're like, you're blinded by the thing.
So the iPad, if you put, is not as great for reading as.
It depends if the screen bothers your eyes, the backlit screen. It's like reading on a computer.
Oh,
Yeah.
Right. Whereas those Kindles
Right.
and Nooks
The,
are.
yeah, I wish we had one with us, but I mean, the Kindles, Nooks, and Kobos, the e-ink readers,
Yeah.
they really look like paper.
Okay.
We
Yeah.
can
And
sepia
you can change the
these.
text size. So as we age, we can make our font bigger,
Yeah, that appeals to me too.
which
Yeah.
is nice. So yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We can also change the color of this now. They added this in the latest version
Yeah.
iBook. I can give it a sepia look. So instead of being
Oh, the
black
hard
text
white.
on white, which would hurt your eyes, yeah, you can give it a little bit of a look. We also have the ability to dynamically control the illumination on here. The iPad will, if you allow it to auto change its illumination, will, based on the optical sensor, will change it automatically, but you still have full control, and you can go as far as turning off the light altogether.
And does that read out loud, the iBook?
The iBook, if you wanted to use an audiobook, that would be a separate
But then
purchase.
does it not read the text out loud that you,
From just a regular
from just
book.
a regular book? Can you get a machine reading?
That, if I remember correctly, no.
Okay.
That would be a different feature that Amazon would have negotiated with their providers to
and-
have the ebook and the audiobook in the same one.
Yeah, and the Kindle will read out loud to you. So if you students.
But only to be specific, the Kindle Fire will not read out loud to you if the authors authorize it, but the Kindle e-ink version will. I did learn a neat trick though. If you've got students who need to have books read out loud to them, and the publisher has not negotiated to allow that, which frankly it's ridiculous. Anyone who's had machine text read back to them and have a choice between, do I purchase the audio book with an actor reading that voice, or do I have the machine robotically read it back to me? Well, yeah, but anyway, that aside, if you have a student who needs that feature and it's not available on an Amazon book that they've purchased, if they have a PC, they can download the accessibility extension and it will override that preference and read it out loud anyway.
We had a question in the back.
Yes.
Yeah, I was wondering, going back to the dictation option, some of those word activated stuff, I've been seeing a lot of commercials for Dragon. I don't have anything that takes any apps. I'm not a Mac user, I don't have an iPhone, iPad, nothing with apps. So I was just wondering if the Dragon is an alternative for
Yes.
someone like me who has none of these app features for voiceovers and dictation.
Yes, you have a few options, and it's made by a company called Nuance. And the product is Dragon Naturally Speaking, and they have different grades of it. So you're going to find one where it's going to be, will run solely on your device, such as your computer, and you have to train it. So you would have to sit down and read a word guide into the computer with different inflections and different tones of your voice, so we can get a pretty good feel about how you speak. And you would want to use the same microphone in a consistent environment for it to get the best feel for it. And then they're going to have their online service. And the online service requires no training. You would just read directly into it, and then they would come back. Because what's going on is that our computers are limited in their processing power for the amount of time we're willing to wait for this conversion to occur. Whereas their online services are using their cloud farm. So they have huge multi-million-dollar facilities just loaded with computers, which will brute force process the audio in different ways to get what it believes is going to be the best method, and then it will then pop out the recording. But like most devices, it will tell you when it's guessing. So for instance, Siri on the Apple devices is going to put a wavy blue line under there saying, I think it's this. And if it's not, then you would then click on the item and say, what's the other alternatives? And it already has a list of them. And Dragon will have the same similar functions as well, and it's going to help you out. Another nice thing about the Dragon system is that you can buy Dragon certified audio recorders, and you can either use a headset with them or a little lapel mic, or you just dictate it into it directly, and then it'll save that digital file. You then go home, plug it into your computer, run the Dragon software on that audio file that you created, and then it will pop it out. So if you were giving a class and you wanted to do speech to text of your lecture, you would want to wear like a lapel microphone, and you would train it with that lapel microphone, and then when you go through the class, you would just speak normally, and then you would record and then translate it out. The only catch is that you would want to make for certain that if you're answering a question from a student, you would restate the question for the recorder that you're working with, so that question will be put in there, so and say your question, as I understand, is this, and then your answer would be that, so that way it's all written down. And it's a very handy thing, but I would keep both the audio recording and the translation. Keep both of those. And if it's your Microsoft Word, say, is your final output, you can take the audio file and embed that into the Microsoft Word document, so you have it all together in one spot.
Are there other questions?
My other question was just how much some of these, if I'm doing just an e-reader, how much do you normally pay for a book? I mean, what are we looking for as far as price ranges or?
It's a little expensive I think a lot of times when they first come out, well, it depends. If you buy books when they come out and they're in hardcover, then it'll be cheaper. They're usually around 7 to 10 in general for a new book that's come out. Sometimes they'll be on sale and they'll be less. The classics, there's a lot of classics out there that are free, which is really nice for my daughter, in school. They're reading Pride and Prejudice, they're reading, Shakespeare, and she can just download them on a Kindle and have it, wherever she wants.
Publishers are very threatened by this convenience right now.
A lot of the prices are set by the publisher, and Amazon will say that. This price has been set by the publisher, so that everybody's not mad at Amazon and think they're raking in the big bucks, that the price was set by the publisher. Sometimes new authors, you can get a book for cheaper, $2, $3, and they're only publishing an ebook. There was a series that my sister was reading, and I went, I was like, I should check it out from the library, and of course a series in the library, gosh, there's one here, book 3 is, got a 600 person waiting list, and I went to Amazon and they had a 3-book pack for the first 3 books in the series for $9.99 for all 3. So, I've spent way too much money since we got the Kindle. Because we went to the library, and then we would make a list, and we go to the used bookstores, and we buy almost all of our stuff at the used bookstore for $2, $3 a piece. But gosh, it's convenient, and you don't have to search, and you don't have to go back 6 times. And
the almost 12-year-old son who's reading Harry Potter, who's reading Percy Jackson, he's gone through all this stuff, and I'm just thinking, at some point, do I invest in this? And does it get any cheaper instead of getting them through Scholastic? Or what?
No, not through Scholastic.
First, and then he wants to own them.
What I'm,
if he rereads,
yeah,
it's
what
very
I'm buying them
convenient
for
to not
is
have a big pile.
Right.
Yeah. The ones that you reread, the series that you're going to revisit, you're going to reread them a lot. I'm slowly starting to collect my favorite series on but I'm weird because I'll have like the little trade paperbacks that were cheap, and then I'll have the big, or the little mass market paperbacks, and then I'll have the bigger trade paperbacks because they're nicer to read when you're, I like the actual paper books, and I wasn't sure I was going to like this, but because I'm so careful with my paper books, and if you have the little mass market things that don't stay open, and I read when I eat a lot, and you're trying to, this, it just stays open. You can prop it up. You can, you can do all sorts of things. So it's very portable. I actually worry less about taking this, $500 device with me than I do my little, $10 book that, might get rained on, or it might, and this is all protected. So, yeah, the series that you're going to read over and over again, I buy those. Kindle now is letting you check out from the library, I believe.
Limited collections.
Yeah, what the Kindle, the deal with the Kindle lending library is that they have 1,000 or so book titles that if you own a Kindle device, and it must be a Kindle device and not the app itself, you can download 1 book out of this limited collection per month.
Right, that's the Kindle lending library.
I
believe I saw something that they were going to start being able to check out from public libraries. The problem with that, and there are other ones that Kobo checks out from public libraries. Public libraries have a very, very small collection right now. You'll be lucky to find the book that you want in an ebook, and if they do have it, it's already checked out. It's been very discouraging, but I'm hoping in the future that there will be more and more that you can check out, because that's the best of both worlds. If I can check out a free book on my iPad without having to drive to a library or drive to 6 different libraries to get all the books in a series, You know, that's where.
There's also becoming an increasing movement of publishers that are, of indie publishers, of authors that are saying, well, I did the math, and it turns out that if I skip the big publisher and sell my ebook online directly for $3, I'm still making more money off of it. So, it used to be if you say, I'm self-published, that people would be like, okay then. But it's slowly becoming something that's not so much of a stigma. And so if you pay attention to reviews, and whether or not they look like they were written by people that were paid to write them, and shop carefully, you can actually find bargain books, and I think that trend will continue, and I think that publishers will slowly discover that they better get with the system and make some reasonable prices here.
Well, speaking of prices, to go back to your question on how much the books were going to cost, I pulled up the New York Times notable books of 2011, and the prices are going to range anywhere from some of the brand new titles that were just released of $14.99, and some of them are as low as $9.99. But pretty much for the most common theme I see is $12.99 to $14.99 for current books. Archive copies, they'll go down as low as a few dollars. And then Project Gutenberg is available on everything. And that's over 30,000 copyright free books. So they've got a lot out there. So it depends on what you would like. The nice thing about an ebook, though, is if you remember a character's name, but you don't remember where they were introduced in the book, there's a search function. These also allow you to have multiple bookmarks. So you can have, like on this one, on the iBooks for the Apple, I have my normal table of contents, and I click another one, it has my bookmark table of contents, and it shows me where I'm at. In fact, you can even go as far as you can click right there, drag a little lasso around a paragraph, and select Note. And it'll create a little notepad right there, a little sticky note, and you can type in whatever you want right there, and then close off, the note will be there.
Yeah,